What's going on, Rangers Nation? It's Alex Plink with Dallas Sports Fanatic coming to you for Texas Rangers Fanatic Podcast, Episode 7. This time I remembered what episode we're on because I remember what week we're on. And I'm joined today by Chris Halicke of Sports Illustrated. Chris, thank you so much for being here.
Dude, it's no problem, man. It's good to have an off day and have a chance to relax a little bit and then talk some baseball.
Well, off day wise, better get comfy because it's pretty much going to be balls to the wall to the end of the year. Rangers have 2 more off days, and that's it.
I'm getting ready for it. It's going to be a lot of covering the road games from the house and then going to the ballpark and then covering road games from the house and then to the ballpark and then just a bunch of back and forth. But I'm ready for it, man.
I thought it was interesting because today's actually both the Rangers and Mariners, who the Rangers got done with. It's the Mariners' first off day of the season, and this is the Rangers' 4th off day of the season.
Wow, that's interesting. I honestly didn't even. I'm doing so much to pay attention to the Rangers. I'm not even looking at other teams right now, other than what they're doing on the field. But yeah, I mean, it makes sense with the amount of games they played. Yeah, it makes sense for sure.
And I've always kind of brought this up. Texas has 2 more games than teams like the Nationals and the Brewers and the Blue Jays. All 3 of those teams have in common they had games postponed due to COVID. They've basically lost a weekend's worth of games. And so
the extra days early, especially with the amount of them. I honestly, you and I both have been on the Zoom calls, so I think we can both say that the players and probably the manager don't really like that many off days because he's had to tinker with the rotation a number of times. And, 2 different times they've had an offensive explosion on the last game of a series right before an off day. And then they go out the first game of the next series and they kind of fall flat on their face a little bit. So tough to carry that momentum over. And of course, Wednesday night's game, they have a 5-run 8th inning, score 7 runs total, and now they've got to go on the road. Now, granted, they are going to a very offensive, happy ballpark, so maybe that'll help the transition a little bit.
Did you notice how Willie Calhoun, his eyes kind of lit up knowing that they're going to Coors Field this weekend?
Yeah, I'm interested to see because I know DerekDietrich doesn't he hasn't hit a lot of, like 19 last year was the most he's ever hit in the season. But man, some of the home runs that he hits are just majestic. So I'm really interested to see if he gets a hold of one, to see if he can possibly put one as far as Joey Gallo likes to hit them. And obviously I like to see Joey, put one and, probably hit one out of the ballpark there, with the thin air. But it's definitely going to be fun to watch some of these guys. Hopefully they can get their power stroke and outslug the Rockies, because slugging has not been something the offense has done so far.
Well, and the other thing to keep in mind is that the Rockies just got done with a series with Arizona, and you figure Arizona is not a slugging type team. However, in that 3-game series, Diamondbacks won 2 of 3. 55 runs were scored in that 3-game series. Arizona, who's probably bottom 10 in slugging, scored 32 runs in that 3-game series.
And again, this could be the series that. But we've been saying that. I'm not trying to be like the pessimistic guy, because I'm usually optimistic. But I have to go off of what I see, and so far we have not seen enough slugging. Last night, obviously nothing more than a double, and there were more singles than doubles. So not a lot of extra base hits. Now, granted, the new ballpark isn't giving you a lot of homers, but at the same time, these. Some of them are still finding their stroke. Willie even said he's not really swinging for power right now. He's just really trying to get past the anxiety facing lefties and doing a bunch of different things, trying to make hard contact and not necessarily trying to hit for power, which there is obviously a difference. But it's good. It's good to see, some of these guys starting to come around. But yeah, at the same time, they've got to start putting the ball over the fence a little bit more, because I think going into Thursday or Wednesday's game, they were I think they were tied for last in offensive WAR or offensive B WAR. That's a troubling stat. Tied for last in the American League. So that's a troubling stat. And one of the teams in the National League that was worse than them is the Pirates, and they just, last I looked, they were beating the Reds 9-0 in the second or third inning today. So even some of those teams are having offensive explosions finally. So the Rangers need to have one for sure.
Well, you look at runs scored throughout the entire season, and you look at the company it's in. If I'm looking at the bottom 10, I mean, Cincinnati is about 20th, 21st. But when you look at down that list, most of those teams, and you're talking about runs scored, a numerical stat, not a percentage type stat. So you're looking at teams that have had postponed games. I think Cleveland, they're tied with Cleveland, who's played 2 more games. They've had, I think the Indians are the only team that can really say that they've had more offensive struggles. But you look at the Indians lineup compared to the Rangers lineup. Rangers have a lot of guys that have predecessor. They could get on base. They could manufacture runs. They really haven't done that. And, would you say maybe starting with you're going from an offensive heavy type ballpark to now you have a new ballpark, new dimensions, that you're kind of maybe feeling it out and realizing that we may have to scratch, claw, manufacture runs, something that this team is not quite used to in the past? You think maybe that has something to do to kind of get a feel?
Honestly, I think that this team is built for doing things. I think this team is built well to do those kinds of things because they can. Sorry, my son had just barged into the room. This is life with young children. So, honey, can you come close the door?
It's an off day
right here.
It's an off day for everybody
right here. Yeah. Thank you. Yeah. So, what we're saying? Oh yeah, I think that this team is actually really good. They do enough things to manufacture runs kind of the old school way. They're really aggressive on the bases. Dude, DerekDietrich, I don't remember the exact number of total stolen bases that he has in his career, but I think it's in the single digits. And he stole a base in his very first game with the Rangers. So he does. I don't know what the exact number was for his total career off the top of my head, but I know from looking at it, his numbers last night. It's very not a lot. And so the fact that he goes and steals the base, it just shows you how aggressive. Yeah, 6. There you go. So yeah, I thought it was a single digit number. So yeah, so he doesn't steal bases, and he steals the base the very first game. So I think that just goes to show you the philosophy. And if guys can buy in and do that, then I think that this team can manufacture more runs. And that's today it's all about the long ball. Today it's all about if you're not hitting home runs, you can't be successful. And I think that's true to a certain extent. I think you have to be able to do things a particular way whenever the game, like for example, if you go to another sport like the NBA, it's a 3-point shooting league now. If you cannot shoot 3-pointers at all, you're not going to win. You have to be able to shoot a little bit, at least a little bit, have 2 or 3 guys who can, really, really hit from beyond the arc and in order to be successful. You can still have other styles of play, but you still have to be able to hit threes. You still have to be able to hit the ball in the ballpark in today's game. You have to. Pitching is too good nowadays. And when I say pitching is too good, the hitters have to face tougher pitching because you're not facing the same starter usually more than 3 times in a game because starters aren't going deep into games nearly as often. There's a number of reasons that I could go into. So yeah, you have to hit home runs, but I think that this team can do some of the other things to manufacture runs that isn't necessarily the trendy thing to do and would be considered the old school thing to do. But I think they can do it. I think that's one thing where I'm a little more optimistic. I definitely for the offense, definitely need to see more power for sure.
Well, it's interesting going back to Dietrich because when you look at batting average wise, it's low. There's no cookie cut around it. But when you look at his on base percentage, it's pretty respectable on base percentage. So you figure.
Does that remind you of another player on the Rangers?
Yes, it does. Yes, it does. Yeah. But here's the difference: you figure he doesn't walk as much. You know what happens? No. He gets hit.
Very few players walk as much as Joey Gallo compared to batting average to on base percentage.
He gets hit by a pitch. Dietrich does.
Yeah.
Yesterday was his 119th hit by pitch, which is tied for 3rd all-time in active. Well, yeah.
That was a hit by pitch.
Well,
We're
I mean,
using
if
the
they
air
had
quotes on that one. I
Hey,
understand they reviewed it. I still look at that with my own eyes, and I'm like, I'm sorry, that dude was not hit by a pitch. I mean, for Rangers fans,
no, definitely. I'll take it.
for the Rangers' sake, I'll take it. But I don't know.
Well,
Look at the
base
replay,
hit or
I was like,
error
no,
too,
dude.
if you talk about
Yeah.
as far as scoring plays go on the ground. And they didn't do this, but Nick Solak's 4-base error, which I won't put in air quotes because I think it's a legit 4-base error. But if that had stayed as a homer, would we say Nick Solak's first homer?
Honestly, I think that one you can get away with doing either one. I think you can get away with calling that home run because the precedent is that it should be a home run, based off of the rule, and then that's in the rule book, and then based off of the precedent, which is the Canseco play, obviously. But the interpretation that it should have been caught with, I don't remember the exact term, but like ordinary effort. I think that's a good description of it, and so I think you can justify that as being an error as well. And I think if I were to lean either way, it's an error. I mean, Nick Solak didn't hit that out of the ballpark. It was aided out of the ballpark, and it was aided on a play. It's not like he was still running and trying to find it, and it just happened to hit his glove, or he just stuck his glove up and it just happened to bounce off. No, he made a concerted effort to try to catch it, bounced off his glove and over the fence. So yeah, I definitely classify that more as an error than a home run. But then again, you could use the other argument as well. So it's gonna
be the long-winded debate. Yeah. It's gonna be a season-long debate, as if we didn't have enough things to debate about.
And if Nick Solak finishes his career with 299 or 399 home runs, not that I think that he's going to finish with that many, but let's just say he does hypothetically, and he's one home run short of a huge milestone. That's gonna hurt a little bit.
We can go back in the past 5 years, 6 years. Let's go back and change the scoring. And so, but yeah, no, I mean, with Dietrich, so first on that all-time active leader hit by pitch, it's a tie because he's currently tied for third with Alex Gordon of the Royals. So number one on that list, you probably know who that is.
I'm trying to think. Who would that be?
Well, it's yes, and I was gonna say Anthony Rizzo too, but because Rizzo's gotten hit 6 times this year, so he's currently tied with Chu with I believe 151.
Okay, yeah, because I would think, because Chu's been hit quite a bit. Starling Marte gets hit quite a bit with Arizona now, but I remember his days in Pittsburgh. He got hit a lot. I'd like to see his total number for hit by pitch because he crowds the plate a lot. Did a lot more watching on him whenever the Rangers were tied to him in trade rumors, and I was like, man, this dude gets hit by pitches. So, so if let's just say hypothetically the Rangers make a trade for Marte somehow this year, they're going to have 3 guys on their team that can all be hit by pitch.
First on the all-time, tied. Third, tied for the all-time. Starling Marte is 5th in the all-time.
Yeah,
he's got 5 away to tie Dietrich and Gordon.
I knew he was up there. He crowds the plate like crazy. I think he actually missed some time because he broke his hand one time because he got hit. So, yeah.
That's not surprising. I'm surprised it doesn't happen more often for those types of guys.
Yeah. It's unfortunate, but, hey, I mean, everybody, you crowd the plate, that's the risk you take.
Exactly. That's why Ian Kinsler was hit quite a bit because he crowded the plate too. So let's even ease in with DerekDietrich because that was quite a show yesterday for Dietrich in his first start. Now, we kind of said that before with Anderson Tejeda and the impact he made on the first game. Now he's on the alternative training site. So this is kind of an interesting thing because Danny Santana is eligible to come back. Don't know when that's actually going to be. And I wonder with the way Dietrich played yesterday that if you do want to take a little bit more time to let Santana be 100%, because here's the thing. First of all, if Santana comes, you're going to have to drop somebody on that roster.
Yeah, you're gonna have to drop more than likely a position player. This is a really interesting situation, obviously, and I did write about it, in response to Wednesday night's game. Going at it like it's not only Dietrich that's putting pressure on like guys like Odor and Andrews. You have guys like Kiner Falefa who can play anywhere in the infield, especially third base. Obviously, he's showing that. I think he could be a really, really good shortstop as well, and then obviously he could play a really good second base. Nick Solak you could put back in the infield. He can play second or first. Dietrich can play second or first. Todd Frazier can play first or third. Danny Santana, they've talked about wanting to bring him back possibly at first base until they're comfortable with him making the hard throws from center field. And I remember I even asked Chris Woodward on the Zoom. I was like, you're mentioning all these guys for first base and only one guy can play there. So obviously somebody's gonna have to come out of the lineup. And so I'm really interested to see how he juggles the lineup, because I think after Dietrich's performance, you kind of have to have him in there on Friday just to see. It's not the same situation as with Tejeda, because Tejeda, that was his major league debut.
Right.
He's never played higher than single-A ball. So obviously, there's not a lot on the guy. So it's not surprising when a lot of these guys who are making their major league debut, especially for guys who have not been seen, there's not even a lot on their minor league careers either, much less a major league career. But for them to just come in and pitchers not know how to pitch to them, and all of a sudden he's raking and hitting home runs and doing everything like that. So, Dietrich's got a track record. Pitchers know how to pitch to him. It didn't matter what pitchers were doing on Wednesday, because he was hitting everything or he was getting hit. But either way, he had a really good debut. I think Chris Woodward would be remiss to not put Dietrich in the lineup somewhere, whether he has him at second, whether he has him at first, or DHs or whatever. I think you have to have him in the lineup just to see. Okay, offensive ballpark. He had a really good debut. Let's see what he's got. Let's see if he continues to produce, because we need guys who can produce right now. I think John Daniels' quote about when we were asking him about Dietrich, and he says that, mainly it was to bring in competition. That to me, that's a tell right there. That they're not going to come out and say, yeah, Rugi's on he's on the hot seat, he's about to be done. They're not going to say anything like that. I think unless they are absolutely standing behind, like, listen, Rugi Odor is going to become a bench player now. But even then, that comes with that's going to come back to, with certain things, because he's still under contract, through 2022 with a club option for 23. So you can't just sit somebody down who's been on the contract for this long, who's had success in the past. And people want to say that, and I'm not trying to go into an only Odor talk here, but his 2018 season was not that bad. 17 and 19 were terrible, but 18, I think he was an over 2-win player in 18. He was a finalist for the Gold Glove at second base. 2018 was not a terrible.
Right.
So let's not forget that he's 2 years removed from a pretty decent season. And right now, with where the offense is, you'll take a 2-win player right now.
And even in 2019 for Odor, it got helped a little bit for a decent September. If you look at September, he actually had a decent September. So when you think about the overall end to 2019 and the year as a total, keep in mind that September was actually pretty good. And it's interesting because I brought this up when Solak was traded from Tampa Bay and came over to the Rangers. Solak came up in late August. If you notice, and I asked Chris Woodward this last year, if you notice, that's when Odor started to pick it up, late August, September. And again, competition. Now, we figured Solak staying put at second. This season they had they kind of changed that around, have him more in the outfield. So that that changed plans a little bit. But you're kind of going through that same motion again. And then at this point, it's kind of like, okay, well, at what point do you just pull the plug? And like you said, he's under contract, so you can't exactly just, clip pull the plug and say goodbye. I mean, you still have to keep what you got. So
I think just to interject something here, I think the Rangers, there are consequences, pretty severe consequences either way. If Rougned Odor stays in the lineup and continues to be this bad, his trade value just plummets.
Mm-hmm.
If the Rangers bench him, his trade value plummets. The Rangers want him and need him to get in the lineup and to hit. And I think that's what fans aren't thinking of, because fans just want to say, just trade him, cut your losses. Yeah, that sounds like a great idea, but it's a lot easier said than done, because if you're still going to owe him money through 21 and 22 if you just cut your losses. So that's not an easy thing to do, especially for a ball club, for any ball club right now, because of the coronavirus pandemic. So it's not, eating money is not as easy of an option as it was considered in the past. The Rangers have had to furlough employees because of the coronavirus pandemic, and people will debate whether they should or shouldn't have. I'm not here to do that. But either way, the Rangers are saying that they are in financial distress right now, that they've had to do certain things. So eating salary is not something that the Rangers are going to sign up for, right away. They just, ideally, they need Odor to get in the lineup and to produce. They're going to give him every opportunity to do so. And if the Rangers continue to stay in a playoff spot or stay close to a playoff spot in spite of Odor, then they're definitely going to keep him in the lineup, because then if and when he finally starts to click, then it's just an extra addition to the lineup. So it's believe me, I understand it's a very frustrating situation to have a guy who's in the fourth year of his contract and has not lived up to the contract. Even in the 2018 year I was just mentioning, was not living up to the contract. Because his 2017 year was just terrible. His 2019 year, even with a good September, was still a terrible year. He's got to perform. He has to perform, and the Rangers need him to perform, so that if they are considering to trade him in the offseason, and trading him at the deadline, come on, nobody's going to take him on right now. Unless you're willing to eat salary, nobody's going to take him right now. You're not going to be able to get some of the bottom dwelling teams to take him on, just whatever. It's not like if he were an expiring contract, it's a totally different situation. But you got 2 more years of this guy. There's no getting rid of him right now. The Rangers need him to perform, so that if they are considering trading him in the offseason, they have some sort of value there, so they can try to get something back, or they can unload the entire contract.
And so that kind of brings in, as far as roster spot goes, as in where exactly do you go? And I think when you look at the lineups that are put in, you try to mix and match and try to not only fulfill that aspect, but then keep the guys who are hot and bring some momentum, because offensive momentum has been hard to come by. So if they do activate Danny Santana, unfortunately, who do you see is going to be the odd one out?
I'm trying to remember everybody, all the bench players on the roster.
I feel like it's just going to be between Rob Refsnyder and Scott Heineman.
I would probably say those two. I would hate for them to have to do that to Refsnyder, because they made a spot for him on the 40-man roster. So yeah, that would kind of suck. But if they really feel that Dietrich's going to be a guy who can kind of fill that role, somebody who can play both positions that they have Refsnyder for, which is first base and left field. The only difference is that Refsnyder is a right-handed bat and Dietrich's left.
Right.
But if they feel like Dietrich can play that same role, and if they feel like Dietrich can hit lefties good enough, or if they can, because Odor's splits against lefties are better than most left-handed hitters, then maybe they do cut their losses with Refsnyder. Or at least send them to the alternate trading site in terms of cutting losses. But Heineman, I think that would be a mistake, because Heineman's more versatile than Refsnyder. You're talking about somebody who can play center field at any point, and right now the Rangers need people who can play center field. Even with Danny Santana back, you still need guys who can play center field, and I think having three legitimate options on the roster, with Santana, with Solak, and Heineman. I think that, so if it's between Heineman and Ref Snyder, I would think Heineman stays and Ref Snyder gets the boot.
And that's assuming that this is going to be done within a few days. I feel like they are going to really draw this out and make sure that Danny Santana is, I don't want to say 100%, but like in the 90 to 100% ready to go. Because right now, if unfortunately Dietrich really starting to struggle, then maybe you do make that activation and send him to the alternate training site. But right now, I mean, yeah, you can. If Danny Santana is going to be performing like he did last year, then of course you want to bring it. But I mean, hasn't really shown that, and so I don't think there's any rush to bring him. I think you kind of wait, see if he can get everything, if he can be back to 90 to 100%, and then you make that move. Because again, I feel like there's no need to rush him. It's not like you're waiting. You have to have Danny Santana in a center field option, or it's not like you're running thin as far as personnel goes.
Well, Dietrich to me is a really interesting player for a number of reasons. But okay, he had 19 home runs last year. 17 of them were by June 1st. 17 by June 1st. His first 2 months of the season when he was healthy, his OPS was over 1,000. He was batting, I think his average was even 270. So for traditionalists who like to look at batting average first, a 270 batting average with 17 home runs is very acceptable. But his OPS is over 1,000. His defensive metrics had never been, great, but if he's producing that much on the offensive side, you'll take the defensive limitations, I guess you could put. But Dietrich's really interesting to me because if he's healthy, and there's every indication so far that he's healthy, I'm really curious to see if he can replicate anything close to what he did when he was healthy last year with Cincinnati. Because it was really whenever he started to have the shoulder issues is when all power was gone. I mean, like he had 2 home runs for the rest of the year after June 1st. So all power was gone. The batting average went down. All the numbers went down. But he's still a really interesting case to me. He could be a game changer because not only if he produces at the plate, but he provides an energy that this team needs. Yeah. I mean, Todd Frazier, Dietrich's one of those guys that you love to have on your team and you hate to play against. And I would love to see Dietrich be on this roster when the Rangers start playing the Astros in September. Because those series are going to be not just very important, because right now it looks like if the Angels and the Mariners can't figure out their stuff, it's going to be between the Rangers and the Astros for that second place spot in the American League West. And I'm telling you what, if you get a guy like DerekDietrich who's going to be barking and chirping at all those Houston players, man, he's going to become somebody who fans are going to want to induct in the Rangers Hall of Fame before the season's over. And just ask Pirates fans how much they hate DerekDietrich, because not only did he terrorize the Pirates last year, but I've seen fans talk about him on Twitter, and they do not like the guy. They do not like the guy. They're not like the fact that he pimped every home run he had against them. They did not like the guy. But again, it's one of those guys that you love to have on your team and you hate to play against. If he can produce, man, that can be a really valuable pickup. And then again, what do you do with Santana? What do you do with Odor? What do you do? The dominoes continue to fall at that point. So I just wanted to get in there and really point out that, listen, Dietrich can be a sneaky good pickup. You could also see the guy that, he's been, previous to 2019 who, decent, fine player, but nothing, extra special. But what he did in the first 2 months last year was really special.
So as a Pirates guy yourself, how did you feel about that signing?
Okay, I grew up a Pirates fan, so I'll put that out there. I grew up a Pirates fan. So no, I mean, the signing, it's the same thing. Right. When you look at things, like obviously I saw what he did against the Pirates last year, but I saw what he did last year in the first 2 months, regardless whether he's playing Pittsburgh or not. And obviously Cincinnati and Pittsburgh play each other a lot. So, and there was so much more to anybody who watches baseball outside of the Rangers. the Pirates and Reds have been at each other's throats for the better part of a decade right now. This goes all the way back to, I think, the 2013 wild card game. And I think even before then. So
I think
they've
that
been
series
at each other's
before.
throats. Yeah. I mean, they've been at each other's throats for a long time. But I remember that 2013 wild card with the Cueto chant. That's really, like, I think when that rivalry really took it to another, it went to another level. So there was more than just the Dietrich stuff there. It was just another reason for Pirates fans to hate the Reds. Honestly, I think more than anything. And Pirates fans, I can say this, growing up as a Pirates fan, they have had enough struggle in their lives. For Pirates fans who are my age and had to live through the losing streak from 93 through 2012, that is painful. To have your team go from 1993 to 2012 and not have one season where you won at least 81 games, that's painful.
So I don't want to make you sound old on there, but when they won their first winning season, I was 22 years old, and you had to go all the way back to when I was like 2 years old.
Yeah, I was. Let's see. The last time the Pirates won anything was 1992. I was 5 years old, and I was listening to the game on the radio in the car with my dad when Sid Bream scored the game-winning run for the Atlanta Braves in the NLCS. And so that was, and I remember that specific night doing that. So that was painful. I was actually at the game where the Pirates won their 82nd game in 2013 because they were right here in Texas playing the Rangers. And it was the first game of a 3-game series, and I went to all 3 games because, I've lived in Dallas since 2000. So I've had, definitely an affinity for the Rangers living here this long. But obviously growing up a Pirates fan, I'm like, these are the 2 teams I've watched the most in my lifetime. So had to go there for that. Knew that history could possibly be made in one of those 3 games, and the Pirates ended up winning all 3. So, which was not good for the Rangers, obviously. But yeah, that was, so Pirates fans have been through enough. So yeah, whenever they see things they don't like, it just adds to that struggle. But hey, Rangers fans have plenty to be upset about, coming obviously as close as they did to a World Series and have not won a World Series in the franchise's history. There's a lot for Rangers fans to be upset about, and I understand the want, it's hey, this might be a great opportunity to steal a World Series. I don't care if it has an asterisk. If you ask any, I would say majority Rangers fans, if they won the World Series this year, are you going to really say that World Series doesn't count? Like, seriously, like, as I would say it counts.
Yeah, I mean, everybody's given the same opportunity. Yeah. So it's not like, I mean, if I don't know what's going to happen with the St. Louis Cardinals and how their season's going to lay out based on what's going on. But, I mean, you look at, Miami still has to make up their games at some point, even though
there are a lot of games to make up.
Yeah. So, I mean, I'd say whoever goes all the way, and with the way the playoff format's going to be, it's going to be a grind for everybody. Deserve it.
Breaking news for the Rangers. Edinson Volquez has been placed on the 45-day IL with a right oblique strain.
Oof.
That's not good.
No, that's another hit.
That's another blow to the bullpen. So I'm tweeting that now, actually. So yeah, you can do the wonderful time, that moment in time thing.
So this is recorded. It will be put later, but you heard it. We do breaking news here. Breaking news.
Breaking news. Just saw it come across my computer.
Off
right
days.
Here, looking at it, so. Off days are fun, man.
Off days. Off days for you. Off days as a dad.
It just happened. My son barged in the room. I mean, I got a 4-year-old, and my daughter's going to turn 2 next month. So I got a 4-year-old and an almost 2-year-old, and it's. I cherish these days, obviously as a baseball writer, because you're covering games almost every single day. And I've had talks with some of the other reporters, some of the other, beat writers who have done this for a long time. And you cherish your moments that you can get with your family. And so I've been doing that and trying to enjoy as much as I can. My son's supposed to be starting pre-K this year, and obviously everything's has to be virtual at the beginning. But off days are fun for sure. They're filled with here in the Halicke household. They're filled with screaming kids and apparently breaking news coming across Zoom calls.
This is your first year covering the Rangers, right?
Yep. Yeah. First year on the beat.
Great first year.
Full transparency. First full-time job in sports journalism. So I've done a number of part-time things in the past, but first full-time job in sports journalism, and it has to be the COVID-19 pandemic year, of course. So
don't they say that you never forget your first?
Yeah, most people say, and there's definite reason I will never forget my first year on a beat for sure. So I even had one fellow reporter say, "Man, if you can make it through this year, you're golden." So I
think with any of us, I mean,
yeah.
having to, for me, having to do a full-time job and then covering the Rangers, it's everybody has a grind.
Yeah. Everybody's got from the guys who have been doing this for a long time to the journalists who are rookies or people trying to get their journalism is a very competitive field. You get your foot in the door almost any way you can, and that's the advice I would give to anybody is if you have an opportunity to get your foot in the door, get your foot in the door, make a name for yourself. Let your works speak, do the speaking for you, and don't get on Twitter and try to brag or anything like that. Just let your work do the talking, and that's how you're going to make it and develop relationships with people. I think having a really good work ethic and developing good relationships with a lot of people, that can help you go forward. So any aspiring journalists, those would be. And again, I haven't been in like I said, in my first full-time position, so I haven't been doing this a long time. But I've learned enough in just a short amount of time to say that getting your foot in the door is a huge thing. If you can get your foot in the door, absolutely do it, and then develop as many good relationships with people as you can, and then just develop a really good work ethic. Always aspire to be better at everything that you do. I'm always looking to outdo myself from one story to the next. What can I possibly do to make even something as simple as a breaking news story? How can I make this more interesting for the reader? What can they possibly look for? And every writer has their own style. So find your voice and develop a good work ethic, develop relationships, get your foot in the door. And I'd say that'd be my advice. But listen to other people's advice before mine because they've been doing this longer than I have.
Well, and the thing is that, you have to be able to take constructive criticism. And I think a lot of us have that problem. Mm-hmm. For me, especially, you always worry about, and there's a fine line between, because I've always been somebody who has always been worried about what other people thought. That's one of the downsides on there. And ever since I've kind of started this, it's kind of like, you know what? I'm just going to go for it, see what happens. You have common sense, so you use that. And I mean, everything has been working out pretty well. I've met some excellent people across the way as well. And, as everybody knows, I mean, I'm rocking my rainbow tee today, so I love it. But, you get to develop those relationships, not just with players, but with fellow journalists, with organization. I mean, everybody has been incredibly great in the Rangers organization. And I said this, I was going to say this last week and I did it, but I do want to give it up to all of the teams, media teams, in regards to just this season, putting everything together. It's not hard. It's not easy. Let me say that. It's not easy. I just want to make sure, or you can take away the not. It is not easy to do. And everybody's, the flow, there's some problems with there, but the flow is as good as you could be with media limitation. I think everybody is starting to adjust. So I do want to give it a little round of applause to all 30 franchises for adjusting.
Yeah, because I know email inboxes are probably getting lit up way more often than usual, just because of all the Zoom meetings and everything like that. Because even, whenever we're playing the Rockies, I was getting, I'm getting emails from the Rangers left and right. I'm getting emails from the Rockies left and right, and same thing for every team that we've played since then. So they've had their challenges this year for sure. And honestly, journalists can make it hard, because our job is to push. Our job is to try to get as much access as we possibly can, because we're trying to not all have to write the same exact story. And that's a challenge. And so that's a major challenge when you can't get in the clubhouse, whenever you don't have access to the players like you normally do, or other members of the organization like you normally do. So yeah, it's a very tough year for journalists, not just in baseball, but all across sports. The NBA and NHL right now with their bubbles, and the NFL. I've talked to some of the other NFL writers here at SI, and they're like, they're asking me questions like, hey, what's baseball doing right now? And I'm like, I'll tell them, everything's Zoom calls right now. And it has to be, because we can't interact with the players, because we got to keep the players healthy. You don't keep the players healthy, this
doesn't exist.
To play. Yeah. So it's just it's a temporary. I hope that it's a temporary thing. Obviously, when things get back to work, I hope that everything gets back to normal like it should be, like it has been in the past. I think the biggest fear for journalists is that leagues will get complacent and be like, oh, this is a better way to do it. And all the journalists are going to raise their hand and be like, no, nope. Not for us. Might be easier for the team, but I don't know. There's no way to predict the future. I think, and this, obviously the COVID-19 pandemic put everything in perspective. But I remember whenever I think I just left spring training like a week beforehand. And that's whenever they, didn't allow media to get in the clubhouse anymore. And I was talking with fellow reporters who were like, this is gonna make our job insanely difficult. This is before everything got shut down. This is before leagues got shut down, everything. And we're like, how are we gonna do our jobs? Like, we can't all tell the same story. And so we've had to find a way to navigate that during this time. And you work your magic, you develop relationships, you do everything you possibly can so you're not, having to churn out the same exact stuff that everybody else is churning out. So again, it's finding your own voice. And even if you're writing about the same subject, find your own voice, be unique,
exactly.
Bring a different perspective, make your work interesting. And that's something I aspire to do every day. So.
Exactly. We're all different personalities. So there's always a different way to put something in perspective. Let's go to finish this out. Let's go a little bit of a more lighter stuff. So the one thing, though, I am a little disappointed. I don't know how they're going to do this at Coors Field, but I don't know if you've watched any Rockies games in the past at home, but Charlie Blackmon's Walkup song, You're Loved by the Outfield. So what the fans will do is, I have the chorus. And so when they're singing the chorus during the song, you'll have and I may try to sing, it's not going to be pretty, but you'll have the entire crowd yelling love when that comes. So I don't know what they're going to do on there. I'm hoping that they kind of worked it in, but again, it's not going to be authentic. Yeah. But I'm wondering, as far as walk-up music, is there anyone that sticks in your mind as far as just anything in general?
DerekDietrich was "Field in the Air Tonight" by Phil Collins.
See, I didn't hear it yesterday, and I heard some, but it was very faint.
Yeah, as soon as I heard it, I was just like, okay, I like this guy a little bit more now. It was like "Field in the Air" by Phil Collins, and I don't think it was quite at the I don't think it was quite at that part. Still, it was at a great point of the song. It was, that's one of those songs that as soon as you hear it, you're like, oh, that's Field in the Air Tonight. It's just one of those songs. So, the Todd Frazier with the Sinatra
Yes.
is another one that sticks out, and Elvis not using Baby Shark is I didn't have to go through that last year because I
It's
didn't cover
not
the.
that bad. I don't know why people were complaining, but it wasn't that
You
bad.
don't have young children.
Oh, okay.
I have
I
young
can't.
children
I'm
that
not a part of
play
this
the song
conversation.
all the time. I hear it enough here. I don't want to hear it whenever I go to the ballpark. And I was fearing. I understand why Elvis does it, and the reason why he does it is a wonderful reason. If it makes you think of your child, that's fantastic. It puts you in the right frame of mind before you step in the box. Absolutely. Okay, do whatever you want. That doesn't mean the rest of us
Doesn't put you in the right frame of mind.
No. So yeah, I'm thankful for that because, like I said, I was almost preparing. Like, I think if he sticks with Baby Shark, I'm just gonna prepare myself for it, and that hasn't been the case so far. And I don't know. We'll see.
I liked last year on July 4th when Willie Calhoun pulled out the Miley Cyrus party in the USA. That's still amazing. It's too bad they didn't play a July 4th here again. I was hoping that maybe he would have done there. And then nothing is ever going to top 2011 Mike Napoli and the Emily Jones bet. Ranger fans will remember this one with the Miami Heat and Dallas Mavericks NBA Finals, where in his first at bat was Right Said Fred. Mm-hmm. And then I forgot what the second at bat was. And the third at bat was Shania Twain, Man, I Feel Like a Woman.
Yeah.
For Mike Napoli.
I think I remember that. Yeah, I remember the Shania Twain one. Yeah, that's awesome.
I don't know what would have happened if I got maybe ask Emily on this, but I don't know what would have happened if the tables were turned. I don't know what the wager was if the Heat had won and she would have lost.
I don't know anything about that, but that would definitely be an interesting answer to find out.
I don't know. She probably – I don't even know if she remembers.
She might not reveal that.
It's moot point.
She might just be like, doesn't matter. We won anyway. So I don't know. Yeah, I'm trying to think. I can't think of any other walk-up songs that really –
What would be yours?
Out to me. Oh, Lord. There's a few different ones. I think I would go more the rock to try to get myself pumped up. So I could go a number of different ways. Go with a Breaking Benjamin song, or I could go a little bit more aggressive with maybe like a Kill Switch Engage, something like that, like more on the metal side. If I wanted to go the hip hop route, probably NF would probably be my first choice with hip hop. So I think I'd go the rock route. And if I had to choose, I'm gonna go off the grid just so I can push the song a little bit. There's this band. It's a side project of two different members of Kill Switch Engage. It's called Times of Grace, and they have a song called Live and Love. And it's a really good song. I recommend it to everybody. So just to push that song, that would be my walk-up song.
I'm in between a couple, and it's one where it's like crowd interactive, where it plays well in the stadium. I remember David Murphy had that, especially back in 2013. I think that was the last time they did.
I do remember his was Where I Belong by
Yes. And they did a contest. I think it lost though. I think it came in second to Yu Darvish, because you can't beat Yu Darvish's Soldier Boy. Yes, you can't beat Soldier Boy. I don't know if he still does it with the Cubs.
Yeah,
I'm hoping he does.
Yeah, I don't know. I haven't heard anything about that, but I hope. You might hear my daughter in the background right now, so that's okay. Off days at home.
But still one. I don't know if I would go with like a crowd interactive, or if I would go maybe on a troll. I don't know. I have no idea.
I would definitely. I would not. I'm not mean enough to do a troll. So I would definitely go more the route.
Your little Taylor Swift.
No, no, I would not be trolling anybody. No, I think, the sports that I play, like I play hockey on a regular basis, and when I'm playing, I'm very serious. I'm very competitive. So I think that if I were a baseball player or a softball player, which too many softball players take it way too seriously, but whatever. I've been there. I've played softball with those guys. But no, I would definitely be more the serious route and try to get something to pump myself up. So Yeah.
I guess if
I
you're
would
Mike
not
Napoli,
be.
he didn't have a good game in that 2011 instance. I guess the good news is if he had a fantastic game, he would have had to keep
Fantastic.
going.
Yeah, he might have had to, but it didn't matter. He could do very little wrong that year. That was one of the better offensive performances in Rangers history for a player. So that was a great year for him. Do you remember that?
Well, we will see what's going to happen in Denver this weekend. Rangers will be heading to Colorado to take on the Rockies, who lost their first series this past week against Arizona. And then a weird schedule because they'll come home for 2 against San Diego, then go to San Diego, the lovely 2-2 back-to-back series, which are the most fun, I'm sure, for players and managers to have
I'm sure.
outside
And
of
I don't
Monday,
think
Thursday off days.
I don't think Charlie Blackmon's gotten out since the Rockies left Arlington. Obviously, I'm exaggerating a little bit.
Yeah,
but
when
I
I
think
heard
he's
that he was
batting.
hitting 500, and I think about that opening weekend, I was like,
He was like
man.
one for. I put it out there. I think it was like 1 for 14 or something like that. He had 1 hit in the three game series. So I don't remember exactly what it was, but he had like 1 hit, and I'm like, how is this dude batting that high? He just had to have not gotten out this entire time.
Yeah.
So we'll see if the Rangers can retire him at all.
We'll see.
Yeah, well, we'll see.
Well, Chris, absolutely a pleasure for you joining on here. Again, you can follow Chris at Chris Halicke. That is Halicke, as you and I both know last names. I mean,
Yes.
you've had your share of misspelled last names. I've
Oh my
had my
gosh.
share.
Misspelled, mispronounced. Just think. You know what? I might even start something. I'll just think of it. Instead of saying smart Alec, just say smart Halleck.
That's perfect.
Just put it that way. You know what? I might start naming.
You and
my
I could
Ranger
have a whole
mailbags
hour
that.
discussion of how people misspell our names.
Yeah, probably. I don't know who might have the more mispronunciations. That might be fun to figure out one day. But I definitely have. I can think of 6 off the top of my head. So
yeah,
the
I can think of.
The funniest one's Halicke. That's the funniest one.
So the funniest one's not actually me. It was my brother who actually had his 8th grade yearbook. They misspelled it.
Oh no.
Blink.
Oh no.
With no C.
No.
I'm like, how do you mess up that bad?
That's a very.
I think I've had a government letter sent to me that was misspelled too.
Oh wow. Yeah, the government should not be messing up names. They should just have that right there. Just copy and paste it, man.
Hey, if it's anything that I have to pay, I'd say that's not me. Get it right. But that's not me.
That's good.
But you can also follow Chris on Sports Illustrated with the Inside the Rangers column on Sports Illustrated. And if you want to follow me, because you have nothing else better to do, you can follow me at APlinkTX, APLINCK, on Instagram at APlinkTEX. And if you want to listen to this podcast and any other of the previous 6 podcasts, because again, you've got nothing better to do, it is available on Anchor, Google Podcasts, Spotify, Breaker, Overcast, Pocket Cast, Radio Public, wherever you want to listen to, it is available for you. Because most people are working from home and want to maybe listen to some soothing or some nice baseball talk, there should be no reason why you can't plop it in and, I don't know, maybe fall asleep with it. It's a good night story. Chris, appreciate the time, and we'll see what happens this week, and I'm sure this won't be the first time we'll be chatting it up with you.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Thank you so much, and thank you so much, Rangers Nation. We're back with